The late Cretaceous Earth breathed in silence, a vibrant, perfectly balanced ecosystem where life flourished across endless green oceans. Enormous herds of triceratops and armored giants advanced heavily across broad valleys. Their immense size meant they required astronomical amounts of food, allowing them to shape entire continents as they fed on vast forests of ferns and conifers under a sun that knew no winter. Millions of years of evolution had sculpted the ultimate terrestrial predator. The Tyrannosaurus rex ruled the land, using its 2 tons of muscle and huge serrated teeth to hunt with precision and absolute power. That biological supremacy extended high above the canopy. Massive flying reptiles cut through the air like living sails, their enormous wingspans and elongated skulls dominating the skies without any natural competition. Every single creature had a highly specialized role. Because each species was perfectly adapted to its environment, the brutal, beautiful harmony of this biological hierarchy felt completely permanent. But high above this perfect ecosystem, far out in the darkness of space, a fragment of rock was moving. This diagram illustrates the scale of the threat. Born from the collision of ancient celestial bodies, this jagged mass was 10 kilometers across, large enough to completely dwarf the skyline of a modern metropolis. It had been traveling through the void for millions of years. It crossed the asteroid belt in absolute silence, completely invisible to the vibrant, unaware planet continuing to rotate far below. After billions of miles, the rock entered Earth's gravitational field. Its massive bulk accelerated rapidly as it tilted toward the atmosphere, rushing past the moon's orbit and bringing a dead, silent cold toward the blue sky. Countless generations of complex, finely tuned biological evolution were trapped on the surface. They were about to be entirely erased in a single instant by a random, unthinking grain of space. The massive asteroid hit the Earth's atmosphere at 70,000 kilometers per hour, igniting into a blinding, deafening fireball. This is the Yucatan Peninsula, where the sea bends in a perfect arc. The impact here released energy equal to more than 100 million megatons. The immediate kinetic devastation was absolute. The ocean vaporized upward in a split second. The Earth's crust folded outward like a sheet of sand, and solid rock melted under the immense pressure. The sudden displacement of the ocean floor triggered a towering tsunami over a kilometer high. This colossal wall of water tore across the oceans, obliterating coastlines thousands of miles away from ground zero. Shards of rock and metal blasted into space returned as incandescent rain, covering the planet in thousands of falling stars. Each fragment of this molten debris ignited fresh fires across the continents. In hours, the surface temperature spiked past 1,000 degrees, turning the air itself into flame and transforming the Earth into an inescapable global furnace. The initial kinetic explosion remained localized to the impact region. The subsequent global firestorm killed most terrestrial life by igniting the very air they breathed. This 3D projection tracked the transition into darkness. Millions of tons of fine ash and sulfur saturated the upper atmosphere, completely blocking the sun. Global photosynthesis stopped, plunging the world into an eternal twilight and a deep freeze. With the sunlight choked out, the foundation of the global food chain broke. Terrestrial forests withered and died in the bitter cold, and the essential marine algae suffocated beneath a layer of liquid silence. The remaining herbivores had nothing left to consume. Deprived of the vast green landscapes they needed, heavy, horned giants like the triceratops slowly fell, defeated by extreme hunger and the relentless biting cold. And as the massive herbivores collapsed, the carnivores had nothing to hunt. The great apex predators stalked the charred forests in a desperate search for calories, until they too eventually starved. The exact physical traits that secured their absolute reign over the Earth became their fatal weakness. Their immense size and highly specific dietary needs, once the pinnacle of evolution, made survival physically impossible in a shattered ecosystem. Yet, Beneath that thick blanket of gray ash, tiny hearts were still beating. Hidden far below the frozen surface, small, long-forgotten creatures managed to resist the devastation happening above. Early mammals, amphibians, and insects possessed the exact traits needed to endure. Because they were small, they required extremely low amounts of calories, and they easily sought shelter deep inside mud, root systems, and rocky burrows, completely insulated from the violent surface extremes. Decades dragged on. Slowly, the heavy dust began to settle out of the atmosphere, allowing a weak, pale sunlight to finally pierce the thick clouds of death and warm the plains once more. Rain eventually washed the blackened soil, seeping deep into the cracked earth to reach buried, dormant seeds. Fragile mosses and small flowers pushed up toward the light, signaling the quiet, timid return of life. The cataclysm acted as an intense, global equalizer. With the towering apex predators entirely wiped out, an immense ecological vacuum opened up, leaving the battered planet wide open for the agile, intelligent mammals to emerge from the dark and multiply. Over millions of years, these tiny survivors adapted to fill the void. They grew larger, diversified across the newly formed continents, and learned to dominate the wide plains and dense forests that slowly recovered around them. Today, life has completely reclaimed the site of the devastation. Modern roads, dense infrastructure, and human civilization now spread actively right over the buried rim of the Chicxulub crater. Our exact evolutionary path stems directly from this collision. If that specific rock had passed safely into the void, the giant reptiles would have maintained their dominance, and the conditions required for our ancestors to thrive would never have existed. The Chicxulub impact served as the violent, necessary spark for our existence. This mass devastation cleared the path for our own history to begin.